This little section on the from the Mauser German 8mm, there are some interesting things we want to show you. We're doing Czech weapons, interwar Czech weapons. First of all, I'm Scott, I'm Machine Gun Dad. If you like the content, hit the like button and the subscribe button so I can beg the Führers of YouTube to actually pay me. Let's start with the 9822. The 9822 basically came about at the end of World War I. The Germans weren't allowed to make any more rifles, but the 98, the Gewehr 98 was such a good service rifle, a lot of the smaller European countries wanted them. So the Czechs started making their version. This is the 9822. Basically, it's the same length as the G98, has the same style charging handle, and has the late war, or what we would consider the World War II sights. Stock's the same, everything's the same. This is one of my favorite shooting rifles, and you'll see that out on the range. I'm going to roll it over, so hopefully David will be able to pick up the writing to show that it's a Czech rifle. Now, just like the World War I rifles, every gun has a history. These guns were sold, I believe, in 2 distinct contracts. So if you get a 9822 by serial number and markings, you'll be able to figure out where it went, where it served. It's a really interesting piece of history. But again, not a K98K. You shouldn't pay K98K money for it. I'm thinking $600 to $800 for something like this. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get it at the gun show for a little less. Again, as in the first video, we showed you a washed out barrel crown. You have to check these old rifles for that washed out barrel crown. And that brings us to our second rifle. This is the Vz24. The Vz24 is probably the most common 8mm Mauser, and it's a 98K design that you will see on the gun market. A lot of them were sanitized by the Yugos as the Vz24 52. But what unscrupulous gun dealers try to convince you is the Germans used a lot of these when they invaded Russia. They were either made in occupied Czechoslovakia or captured from the Czechs. But there were a lot of them that were shipped to other countries before the war that never actually saw German service, or if they did, they were like reissued. You can't assume that this is a German service rifle. You have to do the research, you have to do the history. This particular Vz24 would be very easy for somebody to say, well, this is a World War II German rifle, when it may have been, it may not have been. The reason I'm saying it may not have been is, first of all, let me show you the markings. If it hasn't been sanitized, it'll say right above my fingers, it'll say Czechoslovakia Vz24. All right. The reason I know this wasn't a Czech gun and wasn't originally a German gun is it has an E in the serial number. That's the Estonian contract. Also, if I'm an unscrupulous gun dealer, I'm going to sell you this gun and say, look, it's dated 1938. Well, the Germans took over the Czech Republic in the 30s, so this is probably German made in occupied Czechoslovakia. No, the Germans took over, I believe, in early 39, late 38. This has no German proof marks on it, so it wasn't made under German occupation. So, yes, it may have been reissued to a German unit or whatever, or a secondary unit. You'd have to do the research. Where did the Estonian rifles go? Some went to the Germans. I believe a lot of them went to the Russians. I think there's a pretty good chance that this is an import gun, so it probably came from Russia. And that brings us to the 2 things on this gun that really hurt the value, other than the fact that it's not even a 98K. I'm going to flip this around, and this is something you need to look for, and this is very important. On the barrel by my finger, and I know this is going to be hard for David to pick up, I'm going to rotate it so maybe the light will pick it up. All right? That's an import mark. That hurts the value of the gun quite a bit. And the other thing, and this is something you need to look at on any old gun, even if it doesn't have import marks, is this barrel has been counterbored. This gun apparently suffered the same disease as the Kar 98 in the first video, where the crown was lost. It was common in Eastern Europe to counterbore rifles to keep them in service longer because you restored the crown. It was just, you know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch down the barrel. That leads me to believe this gun came out of the Soviet Union because they love counterboring stuff. I couldn't tell you how many what they call Russian capture K98s I've seen that have been counterbored. But again, maybe it used in World War II, maybe it sat in the warehouse during World War II, but it is not a 98K. Don't get ripped off by some guy saying this is a 98K. But if you do find one, there's a lot of research to do. If you really like learning your history, you could buy one of these. I don't know, I'd say these are decent money, probably they're under $1,000. If you find one, you can look at what country it was made for, if it was an exported gun, and a lot of these guns were sent to Spain and sanitized. A lot of them, as I said, were remarked 2452s by the Yugos. A lot of history here. Not a 98K. Don't get ripped off. We'll be out on the range in a second. All right, well, this is a close-up of the Counterbore Vz24. As you can see, there is no rifling at the end of the barrel. You have to be able to look down the barrel, which we try to get on film, which isn't going to show up. So that's what a counterbored barrel looked like, so you know in the future. We'll be out in the range in a few minutes. All right, we're to the Czech weapons. We got the Vz24 and the 9822. We're going to let Stan shoot it, just like we did in the earlier one. We fired a couple rounds to see where it's hitting. This one actually is the counterbored gun. But it still groups better than the K98 from World War I. It actually groups. The other one doesn't group. This one, the sights are off. You got to aim a little bit left. But that's my fault. I'm too lazy to go out and sight them in. All right, Stan, go ahead and load it up and give it a go. All right, we'll be back with the 9822. All right, we're back with the Czech 9822. Stan's going to run it. We already checked it. It's pretty close to sighted in. And then after he's done with that, we'll have a little summary. Go ahead, Stan. All right, we'll be back in a second with a summary. Hey, Stan and I are back to do a quick summary on these two Czech rifles. The reason we're inside is we did film it outside in the lousy weather, but something happened and the camera crapped out. So we're going to do a quick summary. What you think, Stan?
Well, I like the way this rifle handles. Once again, nice, short, compact, handy. Only thing I didn't particularly like about it was right up here, if you come take a look at the sights, this protector here, it makes it kind of busy, a little hard to make out the target. This rifle is nice too, but yeah, this one's just a lot more handy.
For me, it's the exact opposite. He is right about the clutter, but this is the correct Czech sight guard, so that's why it's on there. This gun gives me the feel of a World War I gun in length and in pull and bolt action. Now, granted, it has the World War II sights, or World War II style sights. But I'm not shooting a gun that's $1,000. I can take this gun out, you know, I'm not going to tell you what I paid for this because it'll hurt your feelings because I'm old. But, you know, it's a $600 to $800 gun, not $1,000 or $2,000 gun. so I can go out, shoot this, enjoy this, get the feel of a 98. But again, the whole point of the video isn't to tell you how great these are. The whole point of the video is to show you what these are, so you don't pay Nazi K98K money for something like this. We want to keep you from getting ripped off. We want to keep you interested in the hobby. Thanks for coming to my channel.